Okay. Wow. So much for a 7 o'clock start. Okay, it's only 7 minutes past. And let me refresh. Uh, it said I went live. Okay. Okay. I think that's it. Sorry for the commercials there. I can hear my mom and wife in the background. Yay. All right, let me put myself on pause here. Well, mute. Okay. Wow. Well, thanks for hanging in there for those who are still on the IG live. All right. What's up, beautiful people? Welcome to today's, oh my word, welcome to today's live stream. This is weird. I kind of feel kind of nervous. I don't know why. I've done live streams before, but this is a little different. Um, I'm here at home. I'm not in the office. So if something happens, something's bound to happen. We do have a 6-month-old, and sorry, hold on. Oh, I got my computer running too, so I can hear myself in the background. Anyway, I hope everybody's doing well. Let me get my notes up here. All right. Man, this is going to be a really rough live. So I appreciate you guys jumping in. I can see some of the stream going on both ends. And let's get into it. I hope everybody's well and safe, all things considered. There's a lot going on in the world, obviously, and we constantly keep talking about that in our news and everything. But seriously, stay safe out there. If you are, that's good. But today's topic is going to be a very interesting one. And it's no means, obviously, I'm not an expert in any of this, but I do have experience in storytelling. I do on a day-to-day basis at my job and just as a visual artist and creator. But I do want to share my thoughts and my experience with finding inspiration, especially dealing with different types of work there is. There's obviously commercial work, there's documentary, there's narrative. And I'm not going to talk about things that I don't have experience with. That's not fair to you. That's not fair to me. I can't really speak on those things, but definitely I'll be speaking about what inspires me, what stories move me emotionally and makes me feel something. And hopefully that will aid in your journey. Now, this topic will possibly be mainly for beginners, but hopefully I can feed into those who are around, my level of skill and work. There's so much more I need to improve on, but I definitely would love to have a conversation on here on the live chat or later on. I always get a lot of questions. Today's questions come from, oh, I did not write their names down. Whoops. But the topic kind of centers around how to find stories to tell and what inspires me as a filmmaker today. So before we jump in, let me make sure I check all my boxes before we. Oh, yes. And feel free to ask questions as we go along. If you're on IGT, I keep calling it IGTV. If you're on IG live with me, you can ask questions there. And if you are on the chat with me, you can ask questions there. Man, it's funny. There's a big old blue button that says go live on the top right corner. I did not see that. So now I know this is why we do these things. So like I said, it's going to be a little bit rough, but let's jump right into it. For those who don't know me, my name is Joshua Martin. I am a filmmaker and content creator. I work for the University of Notre Dame, and I also run Joshua Martin Studios with my business partner Cody Wells. He's down in Florida, Orlando. He does all the strategy and gaining new clients and a lot of other things. So we work in tandem, which has been a great benefit working with him. Um, I've been in this whole visual creative aspect aspect. I've been in this whole visual creative world since really elementary. I love photography. I love looking at National Geographic books. And the one thing I know the first time I felt inspired to pick up a camera and do something is just the beauty of nature. And as simple as that, I wanted to capture those things that I thought were beautiful. So in a way, I was trying to tell people this is what I think is beautiful. This is my opinion on it, and this is how I see the world. And so that was probably my first initial of inspiration. Thank God my parents were very supportive in that journey with me at a young age. Cody just commented. And that just really began my journey to where I am now. And so through the years, I've done photography all up until college. That's what I went to school for, BFA in photography, so fine art photography. So I was getting into a world of portraiture and commercial work. And but then I think around my sophomore, junior year, I made a transition into doing documentary or film, and that was a whole new world. Because I enjoyed looking at films, looking at movies, but understanding the craft behind cinematography, directing, and all those parts that create a impactful film, an emotional film, and film that makes you feel something. I love that journey. I love that aspect of it. So I took a bunch of classes. I tried to gain as much knowledge as I could. Like I said, it was documentary films. I took directing. I took all these other things. Now, granted, you don't need to have a college background to do these things. We're in a world where there's a plethora of information online, and you can always tackle and dive into those different resources. I would love to say right now, this is sponsored by Skillshare, but it's not. But definitely check out Skillshare, master classes, um, what have you. There's some other stuff out there for sure. Um, but always ask questions, be curious, and get out there. Let me stop trying to do too many things at once. This is going to be a problem, me looking back and forth here. Um, that being said, yes, so that's my background. Oh, I guess I could dive in a little bit more about my background. I've made I really have made only two feature length documentaries. One was for my church. It was for the um, uh, understanding the flood. So it was a documentary about how the flood has evidence that it was actually happened versus what evolution says. And there was another doc, I can't remember from the top of my head. Can't remember from the top of my head. I know I did something else. It's been a while. But I shot on those films. I traveled a lot with that. Oh wow, what I'm saying, I did a mini doc series in Africa. It was a 6-part series, and I recently did another 6-part series when I went to East Africa last year in June 2019. Um, but I worked for several universities. I worked for Andrews University. That was really my first job. I was a photographer for IMC, which is the communications department really for the university, and that's where I was really learning how to tell stories through imagery and through photography, by capturing events, student life, and there's and some other things too. And slowly that transition, that little platform allowed me to transition into getting a job in Miami for the University of Miami in Florida. A good friend of mine now, Omar, he was the one who hired me based on my work that he saw, my creative work as well as my work I did at Andrews. And that was a very different path I didn't expect to take. God had another plan for me, and I kind of just followed it. And that allowed me to understand how to tell stories through the student's perspective, finding key aspects that will help aid their story in a personal way. Because what we used to do, we would create these small profiles called stories of you, and we would have to do the whole interview process. We would do the B-roll and do the A-roll and whatnot. So this allowed me to really understand how to really to conduct an interview. I wasn't the greatest. I struggled at it because just trying to really be a what's the word I want to look for, a lab rat in a way, to understand who I'm going to be interviewing and really understand who are they as a person and as a character in the story, really. And so I learned a lot from that experience. And at one point, I got thrown into the fire. I was the only one doing these stories, but then I had a great team behind me. Jesslyn, shout out to you all. But then that transitioned me into doing stories here at University of Notre Dame. And that was this is a much more broader platform because we just focused on admissions and students there. But now we focus on here, I would say here in Notre Dame, the broader aspect of the school's messaging. And that's been a whole nother level of how to think through um, what the message is. So that's kind of like my background in a messy nutshell. But that well, from there, I kind of want to walk through um, the kind of stories that I like to tell. So Joshua Martin Studios, we do branded content for brands, and they're all well and great. We've done weddings, we've done events, obviously all the ends meets you need to do to have a business survive, especially when you're trying to get out of debt. But transitioning from that, I do want to start telling stories about the human condition, and that's where I want to align myself in terms of the content I want to make. And so and another thing to clarify, documentary or film is where I want to kind of move towards. That is what I'm most comfortable in. I do want to try some narrative things, but maybe a narrative hybrid of a doc, but really documentary. And that has a very broad way of telling it. Documentary is a very broad portfolio of ways to tell a story. So as I go on this journey, I will be narrowing down what that actually looks like for me because there's different flavors of it. But the subject matter is the human experience, the human condition, and so that can range from our addictions, our triumphs, our things that we're going through as a humanity. Obviously, with COVID-19 that's happening, so there's a lot of facets I can kind of go into and venture through because that's where I can best speak to my inner self, not really inner self, but my way of really connecting with a story is talking about something that's mainly something that I can relate to. And I know that's not going to be for everybody because just obviously different ways to tell different stories. If you're in the commercial world, you're telling whatever the product story is or whatever um, the whatever company story is, right? You're telling those stories. Vice versa, when you're doing narrative, you're creating your own story, and that and narrative can be a very powerful way of really crafting and being creative. Obviously, it is a very creative way of doing it because we watch movies, right? And so um, yeah, so kind of backtracking. And again, if it feels like I'm losing you all, let me know. I can ramble. This is why I do live streams. It's a little bit more difficult because there's nothing to cut out because I always cut out a lot of rambling. Um, Let me catch my breath real quick. I feel like I wasn't breathing. Okay. Um, yeah. So the stories that I like, that I want to tell, and that I like I said, the human condition. That's a very. Let me give you an example of what I mean by the human condition. So, if, a lot of films that really speak to me. Um, One example would be 7 pounds. He was dealing with guilt, right? And so the character, the main character, Will Smith was the main character. Not to say this was the best movie ever, but this really touched me in a way where this would be a best example for the human condition. He was dealing with guilt. So guilt and remorse of how his brother had passed away and he wanted to return the favor to all those lives he touched and whatnot. So that's one example. Another one would be there's just a lot of films I watched. But let's say let's go Will Smith again. Okay, granted, I'm not saying Will Smith is the best actor ever. I'd love to do it anyway, but Pursuit of Happiness. He was dealing with obviously looking for a job, trying to provide for his son. So things like that. On my end, I've made short films about my body condition. I'm a very thin dude, right? I've been thin for as long as I can remember. Actually, I've been the same weight, roughly the same weight since high school. So 120 pounds. I made a whole video about how I get in a way bullied, um, passively bullied, or and sometimes directly bullied about how thin I am. Right? People underestimate me. People would say that, oh, because I'm a big sports fan, so. I would play basketball, football, but people would say, "Oh, I'm not going to guard this guy. I might break him," stuff like that. So I made a film about that because it was something that directly affected me, and it was my outlet. It was something for me to have a voice in. So all that being said, the first point I want to say, if you are trying to find inspiration, I would say start with yourself. What is your story? What are you going through? Um, is this something that you want to talk about? Is this something that you want to hide? And I don't know if this is taboo or not, but um, maybe this might not be the best advice. But what if there's something that you can't really deal with right now? Um, find something that you can in a way cope with, but also in a way gives you an outlet to talk about it, if that makes sense. And I guess we can probably dive into that a little bit more later on, because that is a very complicated and it could be kind of dangerous if you can follow what I'm talking about. But start with yourself. What is your story? What is it that you can talk about? What is it you can say? What is your experience? And that takes a lot of just like self awareness. And a lot of people don't have that, unfortunately. And that's what is coming from me. I had to wake up from a lot of things to realize, like, hey, I in my heart, I'm not at a good place. And so, how can I talk about these things? And this is how film and creating visual work has helped me get through that. Um, but another obviously facet is trying to find somebody you can work with to create films that you want. They can be comedy, they can be action, they can be anything that you really like. But it starts with like what really piques your interest, what really speaks to you, and if you can't be aware of that, you're always going to be fishing around some form of, oh, should I do this? Should I do that? This person says I should do this, and if you always chasing that voice, then you're not going to really figure out who you are and what you can say in your own voice. I don't want to sound repetitive, but that's what it is. Let's see. I like the thought process behind docs. The human condition is a cool point of view for documentary. Yeah, it is. It is. It is. Um, okay, let me go back to my notes. Um, so okay, if you are, I just want to clarify another thing too. It is going to be kind of hard for me to kind of touch on a few things, just because um, I feel like there's a battle between what's trending and can get me a lot of views, and that might not be your intention moving forward with these when creating video, but it's hard for me to kind of look past that. Well, so I would say it's easy for me to look past that, but I know that's out there. So prime example is the one trend I've noticed lately is Daniel Shuff Daniel Sheffer. I forget his name, but he's a YouTuber. He's a filmmaker, and this whole speed ramping and wipes and all these very fast, cool, great. I think they're really great, and does it really tell a story? I mean, that could be argued. Story in a way is subjective, but I would consider that a trend, because now as I'm seeing on YouTube and seeing on my Instagram page and this little bubble that I'm in, a lot of people are trying to do that, and that's great. And if you feel like that's something you have to do, but you don't know how to do it, or you're not sure you want to do it, then don't do it. It's not something that you have to do. But also, on the flip side of that, try new things. And if you're in the space where um, you don't know where to start, follow a trend. This sounds so counterintuitive, but there is this period of we all had to imitate somebody to learn, right? And I did the same thing. I looked at a photograph when I was in college, like, I'm gonna try to do that lighting, right? And the more I did it, the more I understood what I was doing and the principles behind it. Then I could take those principles and apply it to something that I actually want to create. So there is this period of imitating somebody, but then if you're always imitating somebody down the road, then you lost yourself, in my opinion. And that's what definitely I don't want to be in. I don't want to be lost in where I can't say what I need to say, or if I'm going to just be lost, because there's so much content out there, y'all. And I know it is difficult to figure out how to say something when there's so many people saying the same thing at the time. So um, practice, hone your skills, and use the principles about those, and then really just keep a keen eye to those stories that keep you interested and that you can relate to, and you know that that might have a positive outcome to others. Now I know some people's objective is to probably make the best action film or the best comedy or what have you, and sure, go after that goal. There are people like that. There are filmmakers like that. Um, so it's hard to speak to, man. But yeah, those are my 2 cents. I'm not done yet though. I'm gonna try to see if there's any questions real quick. I still feel lost. I still feel lost, and I'm just starting to follow my own voice. My inspiration, the movie Given, game changer for me. That's what's up. Yeah, it takes practice. Now, one thing, here's some practical things I started to do um, to kind of keep track of what I wanted to do moving forward with making video. And so I kept not so much a journal, but I write everything down, either in notes on my phone, Google Docs. I use Millernote right now, great app. But if you don't really capture your thoughts and your ideas, because sometimes I just sit and listen to music and then I just think about scenes in my head and then I start writing it down. So it's really just being intentional of what you want to do moving forward. So if you feel like you don't have a voice yet, um, do a project. Here's a project for yourself, right? Kind of start collecting all the films that you like and just kind of categorize them in its right category, and then kind of see what the trend is. What is your taste? And so once you figure out your taste, you can figure out, okay, how can I speak to this? How can I use my voice in this? Um, that's what I would do, and that's what I always keep conscious of. I pick certain movies because I know I'm going to like that movie, but then oftentimes I do kind of venture off and say, okay, what's this about? Can I gain something from this? Can I let me see what happens if I watch it? And if I watch it, I could gain something from it. But most of the time, I make sure I'm like, bah, bah, bah. I put things in little boxes so I can kind of flesh them out later on and figure out what I can do with it moving forward. Oh, Milanote. I'll type it in the. I made a productivity video about it. It's a great app. Um, I have it right here open for my notes. I'm still waiting for the iPad version, but you know, takes a minute. But yeah, Milano is what I use, and I just posted out the other day that they're having a 30% off the Pro version. But I digress again. This is not about Milano. Let's see. I don't know if there's any questions. Cool. Okay. Um, Let me go back to my notes here. And this wasn't going to be a long live stream anyway. There's a lot of things I need to clean up, obviously. Uh, but we're going to get better as time goes on. We're going to get better. Mm. I do need to wrap this up a little though. Find stories to tell. I did say a lot, and hmm, it's hard to think on the fly. It's difficult to think on the fly. That's for sure. Well, uh, so I do hope that this kind of gives you an insight of how I go about wanting to create stories and how I want to create stories. Now, granted, if you look on my channel, I do a lot of gear review, and that has its place. I do test a lot of pieces of gear because I'm very particular of what gear I want to use to tell my stories. And gear isn't everything, but I'm in a position to do that. So there's that. But 2020 was going to be the year. It's still going to be the year that I'm going to push out projects that speak to my vision and my mission. That's changed a little bit, obviously, because of the times that we're in, but this is still going to happen. There's a project that my wife and I are going to do. We spoke to that last week or over the weekend when we did a live. But yeah, I'm not going to have this COVID stop the plans that I have for 2019 as a filmmaker. There might be slightly different, but I will be producing content that's going to be more in line with um, what I want to say and what I want to put out there into the world. So that being said, if there are questions, please drop them. And I'm going to I see some questions here. Um, but I am going to talk about what's coming up for the future of this channel and these live streams and what to expect. I have a whole list. I kind of want to just rattle off and speak on them a tad bit. And then hopefully moving forward, I want to try to do a live stream every Wednesday at 7 o'clock. Either it's going to be a tutorial or some type of gear related thing or a talk like this. I got to make better notes next time, that's for sure. But let me look here and see what questions I have. So Joshua, big fan of your filmmaking journey. I'm learning a lot from your numerous short films and tutorials. Thank you. Oh, I appreciate that. I'm always happy to hear someone's learning from my mistakes, and that's the whole point. Are you a believer in getting in reps with smaller projects rather than setting out? Yeah, I believe in building momentum. Because an opportunity is always going to drop in your lap. There's been opportunities, big opportunities that's dropped in my lap that I wasn't prepared for, and there's those might come, but you always have to sharpen your sword. You always have to make sure you're doing something that's going to prepare you for whatever might come, and that's going to be hard to do because you don't know what might come. But absolutely make small projects. So I like to do. Here I work with a dance company. I like to do small projects with them. That gives me the opportunity to um, use camera movement in a different way. I make short. Honestly, making YouTube videos has kind of built up these smaller projects in order for me to be to do bigger stuff because I had to put myself in a particular schedule and a particular template to produce videos on a consistent basis. Not to say I'm very consistent, but the practice of it, the me getting my camera out and filming, writing a script, and all these different things allowed me to just sharpen my skill every time I produce a video for YouTube. So yeah, I totally believe doing personal projects, doing small projects, projects for free. If you're as long as you keep doing it, keep working towards your skill, keep working on your skills, you're going to be prepared for a lot of different things that might come your way. There's always new experiences, but that's definitely a way to start. Thanks for sharing your awesome work. Always interested to follow along. Appreciate you, Daniel. I don't. I have my wife is Spanish, but I don't speak Spanish. So if you can say that in English, Juan, that would be great. Okay, I think I have a question here. What's your opinion about Z cams and Black Magic right now? Planning on get one of those. Okay, I'll hold that. Well, I'll just say right now. It depends on your preference. Like cameras now are so good, you just got to figure out what system you want to invest in. Um, that's really where I stand with most cameras today. Anyway, if you like Panasonic, go with Panasonic. If you like Blackmagic, go with Blackmagic. I haven't messed with a lot of Z cams. I messed with the F6 and the F8 and the E2. Well, I guess that's all three of them really. Um, I like the form factor, but the menus are a little bit weird to kind of go through most of the time for me. So it depends. Like you have to kind of just really ask yourself if you can rent the cameras, get some time with them. That will be the best practice instead of just my opinion. Because when I buy a camera, I kind of want to stick with it until I grown out of it and I learned all the ins and outs about that camera. So that's the best advice I can give right now to that. This may be a deep question, but how much of a black oh wow but how much as a Black filmmaker does the responsibility to proper representation influence your stories and creative choices? That is a great question, Jeffrey. How much of a Black, but how much as a Black filmmaker does the responsibility to proper representation? Man, I need to chew on that. I kind of touched on this past weekend, but my experience as a African American creating content and trying to be in the filmmaking world is very different from other African Americans. And so that being said, I haven't really um, come in conflict with a lot of issues. I haven't really um, felt the need to bring race into the content that I have. What I'm more looking to do is um, um, talk about the heart. You're good. Talk about the heart of the matter of things. Um, it's yeah, like I haven't put a lot. I mean, I would do projects that talk about racism, that talks about discrimination, and all those things. It is part of the human condition, absolutely. But it hasn't been my top priority because I know there's a lot of things outside of that that if the heart of the matter is changed, then those things might follow. So, but you also talk about representation. Man, I need to chew on that a little bit more. That's a great question. I might have to come back to that because it is a topic to have. And the people that I follow, you know, always have a um, something to say about that too. So we're gonna chat. um, let's see. And there was another question before I got to that. Indie filters. Okay, Mateo. In the market of indie filters, I've decided not to get a variable ND. So my thought was to get a 6-stop and a 3-stop, then maybe stack them if I need more. So combine them, yeah, it would be 9. Does that make sense? Yeah. If, for instance, if you have a ND filter that's of really good quality, that when you stack it, you're not going to get um, you know, horrible ghosting or any type of IR pollution. Because once you stack them, you're stacking, you know, obviously um, those two filters together. So I stack my filters when I need to. I use the SLR Magic filters that fix NDs. Actually, got one right here. What's great about these? They have very low IR pollution. It's not so much an IR cut, but infrared, for instance, infrared. That's what I'm talking about. But when you stack them, they don't pollute the image anymore, so they stay pretty clean across the higher end. Even though I do have like all the way up until 10 stops, um, they do a pretty good job, especially on the lower end. Dang, I should have got some water. Yeah, Jeffrey, I'm gonna have to do that. Yeah, that'd be a dope conversation to have. Race is a very difficult thing to talk about without context. Spike Lee's movies are really about community and relationships. He uses that lens to discuss race. Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, it's super difficult to really quantify and qualify how you want to deal with race in your work. Yeah, it's something that's um, very difficult, and I don't spend time to really focus on that too. We're all human, and not to say, oh boy, yeah, I don't want to go into that, but definitely another conversation to have later on. But good insight on that. I think I was thinking IRSNDs will look. Yeah, I think they're called what, nice eye. I didn't say that right, but theirs are a little expensive. I have the fixed screw on NDs. I am going to be investing into the 4x5 NDs because I have a matte box that takes those. So yes. What's up, David? Yo, Cam, what's happening, bro? Um, Joseph asks, how do you find actors for your project? I tend to not. So, like that's a very like a narrative based question. I haven't done any narrative films, so but what I would tend to do if I needed actors or somebody to be a stand-in, I would definitely be around. Look around your local universities that have art programs. Students tend to want to have an opportunity to be in a film, even if it's a low budget film, because they just want to be able to practice and sharpen their own skill. So that universities, definitely online, there's different Facebook groups that have actors that you can contact in your local area. You have uh, uh, there's a website for actors too. I can't remember it right now, but there's a lot of resources online that you can just kind of type in. Facebook probably the most accessible one because everybody has a Facebook. You can quickly show them your portfolio, get in contact with somebody in your local area. But if you do want somebody that's going to probably do it for free for the time being, finding students or groups of uh, like meetups. Well, obviously that can't be a thing right now because of COVID. But if you are going to be looking, that's what I would try to look. Like I said, I haven't looked for many actors in my type of work that I've done. I've tried to find people with real stories that I can tell, and I use them as their main character. Hey Joshua, loving your work. I finished my first short doc. Can you speak on the method of getting it out there for people to enjoy? For sure. So there's something that I came across that I had no idea about. If you want to get your stuff into film festivals, there is a website. Oh, man, I'm forgetting every website. I'm gonna put links in the description so you guys can kind of check those out later on. But if you can, one, do your own showing. You can do a live watch here on YouTube as well. Now it's gonna be tough for, obviously, if you don't have like a follower base, but you can always do a live watch and then link that to your Facebook, and a lot of people on your Facebook can see it too, and you can watch it with them. But I guess the main question too for you, Jim, is where what's the purpose of your film, and then who's the audience that you want to put the film in front of, and that will help you dictate where you want to put it later on. If you just want anybody and everybody to see it, then like do a blast, have it on your website, have it on your social media channels, um, and get into some festivals if you can, especially on Vimeo. I think Vimeo is going to be starting to have its own festivals, online festivals, that is, so people can kind of watch together and vote on stuff. So I think that would be the first thing, though. Definitely check out who is your audience for this doc, and then kind of start from there. Who will be the most likely to watch it based on who you want to target as your audience. If that makes sense, let me know. Film Freeway, that's what it's called. Film.com. That's one of the film festivals, and they definitely have a lot of film festivals that you can kind of there's free ones and paid ones that you can submit your film into, your short doc. So definitely check that out. I would love to see it too. Send it my way. It seems like a lot of people are getting swept up in the kit. Tell me about it. The Canon 8K hype. What advantages aesthetically does 8K offer in your opinion? Are you interested in Canon? Great question. So Canon announced their the R5 yesterday, and the first thing that came to mind is I don't have a TV to watch 8K anyway. Sure, just downsampling. There's a crisper 4K image. The 4K 422 10-bit at 120 frames a second is very nice, but I don't shoot in slow motion all the way. So I feel like it's a very situational camera. The form factor is a DSLR body, obviously, so you can probably rig it up in a car in a small situation. I don't know who it's really for. Maybe it's like nature. I don't know. The whole system, the R system is very interesting to me. Beautiful color science, and the raw capabilities, but I think the price tag and the form factor it's a turnoff for me. The better fit, in my opinion, would be the S1H. Uh, but I'm not a huge fan of 8K in terms of what's been delivered anyway. People still don't deliver in 4K mainly. Then 1080p is pretty much the standard still. But I'm speaking from my experience and what I do and who I've talked to. So I might be missing out a whole nother thing. But the hype is real with it. Like I said, 8K is going to be monstrous. I don't know how. I don't know who's it for. I don't know who they're really marketing it to. I haven't dove into it as much. So yeah, good question. Oh, and what are the advantages of it? Yeah, like I said, I think it's a massive downscale and recropping of it. Yeah, the Komodo, bro. Um, but 8K is going to be pretty difficult to watch for regular viewers if you're just on a laptop, on a phone. The 8K is not going to be anything special. It's going to might feel a little bit crisper, but screens, if you're publishing to screens for this 8K camera, then you're kind of wasting 8K, in my opinion. What's up, Austin? Um, what's good, bro? Could it be a B cam to the cinema lenses? Yeah, I mean it could be. I don't know. I'm more into, I don't know, it just feels weird to have that much video power in that body. But that is what Blackmagic did. That's what Panasonic does. That's what probably Fujifilm's going to be moving towards too. I hope Fujifilm makes a cinema camera. That'd be pretty dope. But oh boy. Um I haven't heard much word on the Komodo though. Is there any more release specs on it? I haven't seen much of it. The form factor I did see is pretty small. It's pretty cool. You've had a few videos of a different dance group and soloists. So I was wondering how you reach out to them to offer a video, or if they contacted you. Great question. So the dance company here is New Industry Dance Company. And my wife and I, when we first moved back up to South Bend, we were just kind of see what the art scene is around here. And we reached out to a few people, and we saw that they had a showing happening. And so I just reached out to them and said, hey, we would love to come to your show. Was there a link to tickets and whatever? So we just brought our cameras and started taking photos and some video for them. They loved it. And then we started having talks. I've always had an interest in working with dancers anyway. So I offered, hey, let's do a few projects together. I'll come to your showing and I'll film it and I'll put together a video. So really, I just kind of just offered my services off the bat, and then they're open to taking that, and that's how we built our relationship. So we have a few projects hopefully this year that we can do, making an actual dance film. I'm very excited for that once we start putting into that process. Yes, I was talking about the R5, um, but I don't have much to say. I mean, 8K, cool. um, and there's some other things, obviously the 422, but that's kind of standard. You expect that in a camera. I like the fact there's no crop, but yeah, you expect a higher end specs on these higher end cameras now. Question is color, but it's Canon, so you always know color's gonna be pretty good. Um, could it be for guys wanting to do VFX? Yeah, and see, I don't think that way. I don't do that stuff. So I really can't speak to everything that could be possibly for. Um, so yeah, 8K, you got a lot of pixels to work with. Did you know that the Zcam S6 can use? Yeah, I saw that there was an adapter that it can be removed. You can change the mount. I thought I saw that. If somebody could confirm that, that'd be kind of cool to see. Watching your videos, I've seen you've used the Fuji X-H1 GH5 in the Blackmagic Pocket. Why have you zeroed? Why have you zeroed in so much on crop sensors? What is it about them that you like so much? It's a combination of a lot of things. So when I first picked up the GH5, that was my first video camera, because I had photography cameras back then. I had the 1DX I was using at the time, but codec was terrible. It was a lot of huge files, what have you. The GH5 offered me a lot of flexibility in a small package. And so at the time, I knew about Micro Four Thirds sensors, and it didn't strike me as, oh, this is extremely different. I hate it, yada, yada. I embraced the Micro Four Thirds system. There's a lot more lenses, and I feel like there's a lot more flexibility because you can add a speed booster, which I actually didn't use a speed booster at the time. But there are some very unique lenses that I can use. That being said, yeah, I moved towards getting the Pocket, and the Pocket really appealed to me because it still had the Micro Four Thirds system, the cross system, but it allowed me to have RAW, and I want to have that color science aspect of that camera. And so, really, even though APS-C sensors and full frame sensors are great, at the time there weren't a lot of cameras, especially around when the GH5 came out. There weren't a lot of cameras that offered that at a reasonable price. So I kind of had to compromise what I can actually afford versus what was actually out there when I could actually use. So that was pretty much my reasoning at the time. And I just worked at it. I worked my skills on how that camera looked, how that felt. And oh, wow, it's almost been an hour. Golly, we can keep going for days. But then I picked up the X1, the XH1 for stills. Basically, I don't use that a ton for video because the codec in is not great. But we'll be upgrading to the XT3 very soon. So yeah, so I zeroed into the crop sensor world because it was more feasible at the time for me. And I had a lot of different lenses, and it worked out because I eventually partnered up with SLR Magic that allowed me to use a lot more different lenses. Now, yeah, sure, you can make the argument the depth of field is different. It is. You have the heavy crop, the 2 times crop, or the 1.9 crop. Sure, you do. But that doesn't stop me from wanting to tell a story. If I like the look, I'm gonna run with it, and then I'm gonna tell what I want to tell through that piece of equipment. If Fuji makes a cine camera that would be B-roll, shoots B-roll and open source, that'd be crazy. That'd be very crazy because I love Fuji colors, and I like how Blackmagic handles this color too. So that'll be pretty crazy. I'm really hoping that more analysts ultimately pick up and start support B-roll. Yeah, it really is like the flexibility. Like it's so easy to work with in DaVinci Resolve, the B-roll that is, and it's been a no-brainer for me. So completely jumped ship from Premiere. I still use Final Cut Pro here and there, but DaVinci Resolve is my go-to editor because I obviously use the Blackmagic Pocket. That's dope. You can change the mount for the Z cam. I didn't know that. That's pretty dope. Aren't they almost $100 per mount? Not bad. And AK, sorry, I'm just like reading through these comments now. AK is nice to have, but strong low pass filter to avoid moray and a lot of good point. Canon. So these aren't questions. Y'all just having conversations. That's what's up. I appreciate that. Let me see what's over here. Zcam, what do you think about Zcam? What do you think about the Loop Deck CT? The Loop Deck, I've seen that quite a bit. It's interesting. I probably won't pick it up. I'm more interested in the Blackmagic panel, the panel for color grading. That will suit my needs more. So I really can't really speak to that as much, but I have seen it in my feed here and there. I've looked at a few reviews. It's pretty cool. Have you ever used? I have to wrap this up because I know this stream is going to end soon, and I don't want to go too long on the live stream here. But have you ever used the Voltrac speed booster on the Pocket or just the mode? So I've never used any speed booster until I picked up the Metal Bones EF Cine Lock. That was my first ever speed booster. I haven't used Voltracs. I've seen reviews. And the reason why I picked up this particular speed booster is because it has a locking mount. I'm always worrisome about how much play I have on some of the lenses on the camera. And if I'm definitely having a follow focus, either electronic or handheld, I don't want that lens to move. I want no wobble. So I got the EF lock because it's a better secure. So it's secure to the camera, secure to the mount of the cage, and then it locks into the lens itself. I prefer that system. And I got the Ultra, so I can use full frame lenses as well. When are you coming out to New York City? When this whole pandemic ends. I got people in New York I need to go see. Shout out to my boy Nolan, and some other people too. So definitely want to head out that way. Can you explain what the real difference between Micro Four Thirds and the Hyperprime scene lenses for SLMRs? I always feel like I know, but I don't. Okay, I'm trying to make this fast. So the Micro Prime lineup, I wish I had a lens with me. The Micro Prime lineup is a new design across the board, and they come in EF mount for the APO lenses, X mount, E mount, and Micro Four Thirds. The Hyperprime lineup was their first series of lenses, first iteration of lenses, and they come in various sizes, very inconsistent in the design. Now, the one feature that the Hyperprimes had was a very fast T-stop for the Micro Four Thirds system. So they had either a 0.95 or like a 1.2 T-stop. And of course, that would be equivalent to like maybe a f 1.2 or f 1.4, because you had to do the math behind the crop and the depth of field. Same amount of light, but the depth of field difference. Anyway, so that was really the main difference. And so all the microprimes have a more consistent T-stop, especially with, I think the 12, 15, 18 have all the same T-stop, T2.8. And then the 25, 35 have the same T-stop. The 50 has a T2.1, a T1.2, and then the 75 has a T1.3, I think. But they all have a little bit more consistent T-stops, not that fast T-stop everybody was used to with the hyperprimes. The optics of the hyperprimes versus the microprimes are slightly different too. And what else I can say about them? Well, obviously with the microprimes, there are more options now with this series of lenses. The biggest difference out of all of them is going to be the apoprimes. The microprimes, same design idea, so it can have more consistent gears, more consistent size for all the lenses. So when you're swapping out with your follow focus and stuff, you don't have to reposition. It's the same size. You didn't get that with the hyperprimes, but with the Apo EF, that's the only lenses that come in EF, and they're a lot more expensive. But compared to the other cinema lenses in this category, you have a better deal, in my opinion. And I own the 25 T1.2, T2 point, T2.1 two-stop lens. And so that review and talk is going to be coming later on. Either I'll do a live or I'll do an actual YouTube video. That's going to be coming. Oh, good. They actually put a timer on here. I'm actually going to take. I hope that. Sorry. I hope that answers your question there. And YouTube question is during live stream really beneficial to grow your channel? I have no idea. I'm doing it because I want to talk to you all. If it helps my channel, that's a plus. I'm not as consistent as YouTube. I'm not a YouTuber. I am a YouTuber, but I'm not. And so I do it because I want to I want to engage. I want to talk. I want to just share thoughts and ideas. In terms of the analytical and statistic side of things, there would be probably a boost if you one, if you have a lot of engagement during the live stream, the more people are watching, the more uh, YouTube is going to realize, oh, this is content more people want to see. So the algorithm, you got to understand how that works. I have some knowledge, but that could be definitely another topic to talk about too. But good question. What's up, David? We got to get you back on here. I got a lot more content to talk about. I may be interested in them right now. Oh, you still a Vedra? I had a Vedra 35 back in the day. I did a review on it on this channel too. That was my first cine lens. I got the Vedra 35 and I had the SLR Magic 25, and I was trying to figure out which one I like. So yeah, hit me up if you have any more questions for sure. Okay, before you guys go, well, I got 23 seconds. Thanks for jumping on the live here on Instagram. Hopefully we can I'll have a better form factor. Whoops format for this moving forward. But I appreciate you guys. And it cut out. Okay, I'm a share story. Share story. Okay. Well, I doubt I'm going to actually have that saved. Did it save? I don't think so. Whew. All right, I'm still live here. This doesn't have an ending time, but I'm gonna go to an hour. I got 51 minutes in right now, so yeah. Appreciate you. This is cool. Oh, I did say what I was going to talk about for the next live. So next week, Wednesday, 7 p.m. I want to talk a little bit more about the anamorphics, especially using anamorphic with the Blackmagic Pocket and the GH5 from my experience, and show you some examples. It has a cool feature here on Zoom. I actually can share my screen, so I can show you some examples of some of the things I found interesting with the Pocket and the anamorphic lenses. Currently, I have the 1 through 3 anamorphics, and so a lot of people ask me, or tell me it's not worth having those and yada yada, because the market of anamorphic is definitely booming, and it is. But these are the lenses I have right now, and I want to share with you all my findings. Now, it won't be the best quality. I'm on my wife's laptop with this 720p what's this thing called, webcam. Hopefully I can get the adapter to my Blackmagic Pocket to have a much more higher quality video coming out. But I appreciate you guys hanging out. Any lenses you got an eye on you want to pick up and test out? Yeah, for sure. I want to test out. Yeah, I'm using Zoom right now. I don't know if you can see the Zoom logo at the bottom, but definitely want to test out the SLR Magic APO against the Rokinon Zine CF or the Rokinon Zine itself, because I think they're pretty much the same optics. I'm doing a lens test right now with 3 other lenses, and I'm trying to pick up a Vazen 40 millimeter. I think you have one of those already, Jeffrey? But I do want to pick that up to try to test out myself on the Pocket. What else is out there? I want to get myself a vintage set of lenses. The Helios 44-2, the rehouse from Iron Glass. I definitely want to get that. I've been eyeing that for a while, so probably over the summer I'll pick up one. What else is out there? Yeah, because I can kind of talk to that a little bit later, but I'm slowly building out what my arsenal of lenses are going to be. But definitely going to push what I have right now. So I'm definitely going to do that. I need to look into that, do a video on, wait, sorry, I said a lot. Which, do a video on which, because I'm gonna do a lens video comparison on the SLR Magic A pose versus the Zine. Um, and then the Sigma, I do want to get on there. I can tell you right off the bat right now, the SLR Magic lens, the APO lens that I have, it's in a category of its own, and compared to any other cine lens, it's probably going to have more character than most. Definitely because, like for instance, the Rokinon Zine and the Sigma, they have character, but it's a little more clean, a much more cleaner, neutral image. Right off the bat, the SLR Magic has a more warm tint to it, and that's completely fine. Like different lenses will have different use cases, so it's definitely interesting to see, especially when I pair it against the um, Sigma 18 to 35. So definitely, those are two lenses I won't use together on a shoot, but it's good to know that I see that difference. So definitely do your lens test on Zoom, YouTube integration, Zoom and YouTube. I can just show you a link right now. I'm gonna pop this in here. This is how I learned how to do this whole thing. So, all right, I'm gonna actually dip out. It was great hearing from you all. Next week, 7 o'clock, we're gonna talk about anamorphic lenses. And I'll catch you guys on the next one. Stay safe. I'm gonna go eat because I'm hungry. All right, peace. Let me see if I can end this.